We have a lot of people here from different generations. I have the honor to have one of my directors who's gonna be 80 this year. And then we are hiring people that have 18, 19, 20 years. They come from different perspectives. So if you don't have a lot of communication, why you're doing and engaging, eventually people will come to their work and that's it. How you get people to do something that is differently from what they are doing, it's not easy to change. So how do you do it?
Let's say I was going to be mentored by Eduardo. What is he going to help me with, and what's the approach?
There are, let's say, 4 steps here.
Eduardo, it's really a pleasure to be here with you, and thanks for making the time to come to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Damian. I think was great that we crossed roads virtually here. Very glad to learn about your podcast and looking forward for to have an engaging session here.
Absolutely, it for sure is going to be a very interesting conversation. Let's start with talking a little bit about you. Of course, you're the president of Mercer Brazil today, but before we get into that, would you mind giving us a bit of a background and introduction for those who don't know you?
Okay, my pleasure. Well, I started my career a long time ago, working for, I would say nowadays, very likely the largest financial institution in the Southern Hemisphere in the world. It's Itaú Unibanco. I started there as a trainee and was a fascinating institution. I had the chance to work, in different areas, marketing, new businesses, managing portfolio, and so on. And at a certain point of time, I was invited to work for the corporate pensions, and I learned to love pensions and benefits. And this was a great team interacting with the bank and distribution channels. Later, I moved to other responsibilities. During this time, I also had the chance to study overseas, come back, and finally, I received an invitation to join this great group that I work nowadays, Marsh McLennan. My first role here was actually at Marsh, was managing the first joint venture, the first global joint venture between Marsh and Mercer. That was back 2012. So both of our companies had a benefit approach, and we wanted to form a powerhouse. Later, I also accumulated Marsh Consumer, and back 2017, I was invited to be Mercer president here in Brazil, and that's my role nowadays, and I'm super proud of it.
Great. Have you, when you started your career, as you said, a long time ago, but not that long ago, to be honest, uh, have you ever imagined you were gonna be in this role with these responsibilities? Was that part of what you thought for your career, or it?
Things happened. What I always thought on my career was to learn skills. So this
Okay.
is pretty much what I was anxious for let's say, the next opportunity to learn skills. So I'll give you a couple of examples here. So at the bank, I was working with marketing, but I knew it was a financial institution. So I applied for an MBA in finance. I started studying, and then I had the chance to move to an investment division. Later on, I looked at that, let's say, my new path, and I realized that was more technical, and I had to earn some, let's say, client experience. And then I saw an opportunity to move to this corporate sales team. And then I raised my hand. It took a while, but eventually I was invited to work there. Um, After returning from the MBA in New York, I wanted to lead a P&L, and then I was looking for this new opportunity. It happened as well. And finally, I think was something that, it was a great experience to be invited to work for Marsh McLennan and later to lead Mercer. And that gave me the opportunity as well to, be a voice in the market, to position the company with peers of other CEOs, to be in charge of inorganic strategies. Couple of the, I mean, responsibilities I didn't have yet. So I'm always looking for building those skills, if I may say.
Those skills. That's a very interesting approach because well, I think about that, and you were not thinking, hey, you know, wanted to become or with this position in this company, but you looked at what were the skills you needed in order to then be successful, right? And that's a very interesting approach. So what would you say kind of early on in your career and you know before getting to where you are today, if you had to mention a few of the skills that you believe really empowered you to get to where you are today, you know, what comes to mind?
But I think the first one is curiosity.
Yeah.
Like asking questions is very effective, and you learn a lot by doing that. So I see a lot of, let's say, colleagues that I had over my career. They were great, really great on what they were doing, but they did their work and check. So they were never really looking, well, what is this serving for? What is the goal of who's asking me that? And is there something else that I could do? So that is something that I think it's powerful. And by doing that, I learned a lot of possibilities that I had no idea that were open.
Yeah.
You know, the second one, maybe that's something interesting as well, is empathy, because there is a big difference between trying push business and um, let's say building opportunities together, either with peers. So if you want to work with, let's say, inside the institution, a channel of distribution, it's not about you, it's about what are their goals and how can we work together, or with clients and so on. So I think curiosity, empathy, I think it's very important. And the last one, it's as we were saying, is trust your decisions, because you never know, honestly. I mean, I was trying to build those skills, and at certain point of my career, I decided to apply for a program at the bank, and I was eventually approved to be sponsored in Columbia, in New York, for this
Uh,
program. But at the same time, the position above me was empty, and I was a natural candidate, and I lost that. But I said, okay, I already made my choice.
that's
So
good.
you you cannot regret, as long as you are trying to, let's say, trust your decisions and move on, because you don't control everything. So don't suffer, and just move on.
It's move on. It's trusting your decisions. You were saying something interesting there is really you don't know what you don't know, and when you're curious and when you are open-minded and when you go to people and ask questions, uh, they open up your mind to different possibilities, right? And actually one of the reasons why are talking today is because I saw a post that you did on LinkedIn about some different mentoring programs or things that you've been participating on, right? But when you think about your own career, like personally, Eduardo, uh, can you think of mentors or did mentor? Do you have any kind of mentor that help you, you know, grow your career, your skills?
Yeah, that was. I can give two examples connected to the points that we were discussing. So one of them, at my, let's say, let's come back to my very early career, was a trainee, and I was asked to do a material for sales program, and I was asking, what is the objective of this? Instead of doing the material, oh, the objective of this is because we need to diversify. Okay, but who's gonna be the one that is gonna approve this material? What is he looking for? Oh, is the director. And eventually I asked, if I have the chance one day, can I talk to him? And yeah, why not? And this happened. And from that day on, I had, let's say, an empathy with this director that became somehow my mentor.
Mm.
And it was every time I was doing something or I had some questions, I could talk to him. I'm thinking about this, about that, and he was great because I could understand actually his plans. And that gave me a much broader comprehension of what, let's say, my boss was doing to his boss, to him, instead
Right.
of why am
Yeah.
I doing this work that, okay, everyone could be happy. And this gave me a lot of, a lot of information and access to have a broader view. The second one, I would say more senior here. As you grow, you have to make decisions. And I think that's something that actually I explore a bit with the people that I mentor, because there are
Mm.
always trade-offs, right? You never have 100% of certainty. You never know really the output, but at certain stage, you have to trust your decision. And the more you grow, the more impact you have. And then at certain point, you start to think a lot. Okay, this can happen and this can impact here. There are the marketing reasons. So, and I had a mentor that was someone who was saying, listen, do you have 80% of what you need? If anything goes wrong, is it going to be a huge problem? Then study more, or this is okay. You already did your work and move on. And that was something that helped me to sleep. That
Sleep.
was
That's
as a manager, some of the decisions you're doing, say if I fail, well, that's part of the game. Just sleep.
it's part of the game. It's a little bit of trusting your intuition and having faith and no enough data. And something that you mentioned there is it's of course as you grow, your decisions impact more people and a broader part of the business, right? So when you think about that and you have all these moving pieces, is there any sort of, let's say, method or framework that you learn in order to make difficult decisions that going to have a lot of impact, or it's more, let's gather the data and I think it's this way. So but how do you go about those decisions?
I think that is not actually not my frame. It's
Okay.
but I think this is a way of thinking. If your decision, if you go wrong, uh, it's something that can be corrected.
Hmm.
Do it. If you're not gonna create a lot of impact. But if goes wrong and will impact uh, people that is above you, give a note, a line. 'Cause then it's not only about you, it's about others.
Right.
So and that relates a lot to the situation I was describing to you, not in my position in Mercer, but in my previous employer. I was making a decision of going for an action of bank branches,
Uh-huh.
and that was something that could impact the image of the bank if that doesn't go well. And I was thinking, well, I'm here looking at this, managing my portfolio. So what can I do if something goes wrong? And then that was very important to have a mentor say, okay, have you spoken to your boss? Have you aligned with him? Has he aligned with, the other stakeholders? Did you look for, yeah, I did. Okay, so move on. Eventually you worked well, but if it didn't work well, and I knew that uh, I was aligned with the senior management, everyone was backing me up, and so that's somehow the frame. And if something that is very risky, also that you're making a decision that is a game changer,
Mhm.
also double check and align. The,
Yeah.
we need to manage risks diligently.
Right, but because it's managing, kind of people reporting to you and what happens below you and how that impacts kind of above you, your own leaders. And talking about leaders, and leadership, and I think this is a very broad topic, and there's lots of things that are talked about on the topic of leadership and what a leader is and what's the role of a leader. But in your own perspective, what is the role of a leader in a business, in a business setting? What would you say is the role of such person?
Yeah, I think it's set a vision. So first, because no one works, well, people work obviously because they need to make money, and that's
Hmm.
part of it. But don't work only to make money. You work because you want to be part of something bigger. So I think you need to set a vision, align, right, execute, and most important, leave a legacy and do it and correctly and have successors. So if you can go through this journey of setting a vision, executing, doing in the right way, I mean, very in the correct way, doing everything with strong values, and in the end, you can do a great impact and form someone to take over. I think that's, to my opinion, what leadership is should do.
She'll do. And what would you say are the most important skills leaders need need to be effective leaders? I've heard many different things, of course, and everyone has their own perspectives, right? But for you, if you have to think about, top two, top three skills that leaders need to have if they want to be effective.
Well, there's one that is everyone was gonna answer to you, and that's very true. And it's like the people that you choose,
Hmm.
right? Your team. This is really key, regardless of the challenge you have. And I have had many. So in my career, some of them was more a turnaround, the others were more growth, and some of them is combining both strategies. So you need to have, I mean, the right people and to be with you in this journey. And the other one that I think it's very important is managing up, because if you have the great team but you're not aligned with, I mean, it's very, let's say, people that work in corporations. You're not an owner doing what you want, right?
Yeah.
You're part of something. So if you really understand what is the ultimate goal and what's the corporate strategy behind, and then you work and set your vision and have the best people motivated, and you know how to do, I mean, the things that you need to do aligned with the corporate vision. I think that's a very important foundation to be successful, and have the support you need to make it work.
So you talked about team building and then managing up, right?
Yeah,
What and and I get that when you're building your team, it really depends on the context and the mission that you have to accomplish. Is if it's a turnaround, you need certain skills and type of people. If it's something different, then it's different as well for the people you need. But are there any? I'm not talking about skills here and things that people need to know or do, but when it comes to traits from the person, is there any characteristic, anything that based on your perspective, you look for on the people that you work with?
yeah. Well, that's true. It's a great question, and people have different styles, right? So I like more collaborative environment.
Right.
So I look for people who collaborate. That's a non-negotiable. I mean, if you don't like to collaborate, it may work with someone else, but I'll have a very hard time if you're not willing to do an extra mile to support your colleague, or or to support beyond what your, let's say, your own
Right.
uh, area. And and the market nowadays is very dynamic, so it's really really hard to say, well, this only belongs to here, this only belongs to here, and this only belongs to this. The challenge the client faces are sometimes cross lines of businesses, and if you don't have a collaborative environment, you cannot bring the best. So collaboration for me is key. And I really look to people that are also wanting to do the extra mile. I mean, that's something that it tells me a lot about the passion. And if you're really passionate, and when you have challenge and things that are an opportunity for this person to grow, and they take advantage of that, it's a great sign that I have people here that want to do more and want to be part of this journey, and so
Mhm.
on. So this is not related to specific challenge, but to things that generally I think are very important.
All right. All right. That's important. And those personal traits and characteristics that are more ingrained in the person, or no? Uh, do you think that those, being collaborative and doing the extra mile, do you think that those are things that people can learn, or you have it or you don't, right? It's kind of in you.
Well, I'll give a more positive here
That's cool. Yeah.
view. Uh, I think people can learn,
Yeah.
but it's important to provide context.
Mm.
So we have a lot of people here from, let's say, different generations. So I have the honor to have let's say, one of my directors who's gonna be 80 this year. Okay, so he has a different value, why he works, and then so on, and then we are hiring people that have 18, 19, 20
Mhm.
years, and they come from different perspectives. So if you don't have a lot of communication, why you're doing, and engaging, probably eventually people will come to their work, especially if nowadays we have this remote work and possibility, and that's it. But if you have a lot of conversation, you're close, you're speaking to these colleagues, giving context why that's important, and what they can earn from that, what they can pretty much other skills they can develop. And so I think, yes, people can, even people that are more technical, they can wake up and see, well, I should think broader, because that's gonna be. And here, just connecting, that's another thing that I think it's a game changer. We all know that artificial intelligence is here, it's present, evolving. So if you are very focused, and you only do your work, and you only have certain skill, the chance that you won't be ready for different things is much smaller, from others that can connect, challenge, and see what people are doing and have a broader understanding. You're much more fluid than if you're only focused and doing your work remotely for only one activity. And that's, if you don't talk to people about it, they may not think about it. Well, okay, I'm doing my work, getting paid, but how can I have a better understanding of the complexity of things that I could possibly do? And we have a lot here, a lot of things that it's a professional services company. And a lot of the things happen by speaking, by creating, by innovating.
What you're saying, it's I was reading, and I don't remember who was that said this. The CEO of, I don't remember the name of the company exactly, but he was talking about the use of AI in their companies, right? And that before going and asking for more headcount, he said, "You need to show me that this, that you cannot do with artificial intelligence what you need another person to, to do. You got to show that. If you cannot do it with AI, then go and hire the person. But if not, you do it with AI, right?" And when I think about that, say we've always been kind of the education systems and how things work. You're kind of used to, you're an accountant, or you are, you have your specific box in which you act. But now that I'm I don't know what's going to happen. But what do you see it's happening there, right? In terms of, should people focus on kind of very specific skills, accounting or coding or whatever the skill is, or they should, kind of zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and develop more rounded skills. I mean, I'm not sure what you're seeing.
Well, I'll give you a consultant answer, right? It depends. Well, be more practical here. If you are in a role that is very clear that
Yeah.
this role is replaceable by artificial intelligence, I mean, we don't believe that you have artificial intelligence replacing humans 100% of their jobs and so on. I think that's an exaggeration. But you may have as part, let's say, some roles, some replaced, others it will be augmented, as we say, so these people can do something else.
Yeah.
So you can change, you can upgrade your skills and other things. So those are kind of, let's say, skills that can be learned by doing or being retrained, or by engaging in projects that we already have here in the company that are available
Mhm.
and that you learn. So I think that's something that we always talk and push to people, and actually our it's about us, about the employers, but it's also about the colleagues to engage. So we are here. We offer a lot, several trainings, and I'm sure like the corporations that you cover in the podcast are pretty much major organizations, multinational, and so on. They train, and you see people reacting different ways.
Mm.
So the same training, the same opportunities for some of the colleagues, and some of them are doing, are excited, are looking and wanting to connect and learning, and the other guys are. So at least we need to make this call for action, speak up and show, and then we have very good people taking advantage and growing and augmenting their impact.
Yeah. And I go with that because when you think about that, artificial intelligence comes, and that technology is able to do things in a speed and in a way that no human can really. But it won't replace you really. It will um, free uh, attention span and time, so you can go and focus on something else that will create more value, right? And I think the challenge is there in how how leaders, how companies, create that and say, okay, look, this task that you're doing is not really adding any value. Let's see how artificial intelligence can do that, and let's train you to do something of more value, right? Something better. And I think that's the challenge, because uh, there's no many people that you can go out there and hire that are super AI experts. This is new. No one really knows much about it. So what I'm looking at now is companies need to train these people in the company, because you need to do that. There's no, it's kind of the only option. But how, and you mentioned that you have different projects and things going on. Do you see that companies are really taking advantage of the talent that they already have and training them to do things of more value? Or what are you seeing in terms of how companies are training their people to use AI in their work?
I will answer that, but I just want to make one comment building on
Yeah.
what we were discussing here. Um, it's way more engaging. Well, first, people, this generation is anxious, right? It's a lot of anxiety going around because you really don't know, and the level of change is super fast.
Yeah.
So one of the things we need to do is realize that there is this level of anxiety and engage our colleagues to be active players, I mean, active participants of this transformation. Because if people get engaged and trained, they will be part of designing the solutions. They will look at the possibilities and suggest, because they know the clients, they know their tasks, and so on. So this is really inspirational when we can look at this journey and invite, I mean, the talent around to be an active part. And even this talent can look, okay, I'm moving here, so what's next? So I think this is the right journey that there are a lot of companies doing with this approach. There are others that are one step ahead, and we see here in some of our projects there are companies that are already looking a couple of years in terms of what's the future of work gonna be, and we start from the job, from the work, not from the technology. Because as we were discussing, if you start from technology, you create anxiety in people, you have detractors and so on. So if you build, I mean, how I want to have this future, the work in the future, and then you add technology as a
Hmm.
component of part of the things that you can, and you retrain people, and people feel, okay, that's our plan. It's not a technology plan that will replace my job. So I think trying to combine a little bit of what you asked with what we have been seeing here in terms of how approach to intelligence and keep the talent motivated, and it's also it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. I think this is a, I mean, it's a great time. The amount of things you can do and the value that you can create when you previously probably didn't have the skills. I can build a landing page in a few minutes, and I
It's
don't know how
amazing.
to, and I don't know how to code.
It's
It's
it's it's
crazy, and
unbelievable.
it's a pretty good looking one,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just crazy. But I'm pretty sure that someone that understands design and have these skills, they can do that way better than I can, by uh, prompting. You were saying something in relation to the generations and the different generations. You have a director with 80 years old. I'm not sure how old are you, but maybe 40 something, 50 something probably, and then you have people in their 30s, and you have all these different generations and that have different motivations and perspective on what work is. When you think about, I'm thinking about my grandfather. He was, you know, of my generation, 12 years old, 13 years old, and they were building houses, right? And it is at 12 years old, probably I was playing video games, and all those different motivations and perspectives. And I, in talking to different leaders and companies, I see that that is a challenge on getting these people to understand each other and work together. That's become a bit of a challenge. But if you stop to think about it, do you do you see that there's something that younger generations can learn from older generations and vice versa? Because everybody has their own perspectives, their own motivations, but I'm pretty sure that these people can learn from these people, and this can learn from this, right?
Yeah.
Do you see
Uh,
anything? Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And we were young as well, right? I'm 50. I,
50.
I, I s- started working 20, so
Yeah.
I was young. I wanted to have a raise in 6 months and so on,
Yeah.
you know. So I mean, regardless of nowadays, we have more generations and more technology, and everyone is digital, and the patience, the patience for timing is much more reduced than it was when I was 20 years old.
Mhm.
I still learned from other people and learning about their career and how they got to where they are. And so I think organizing those groups and those conversations needs to be in the agenda of the leadership. So and in both ways, there is also the reverse mentoring programs that you learn a lot. So what are you looking? And I have a sort of reverse mentor because I have three children. And I get to my home every day and they're looking at something that I had no idea
Y-
existed.
Yeah.
So, so this is kind of, it's a joke, right? But I mean, we have also reverse mentoring. So these conversations, well-structured programs, they do help a lot. And there's other demographics that are happening. So when you have people speaking and talking, and we are there listening, we also learn. So one of the things that is happening, I mean, the obvious concern nowadays is how can we get the new generations more engaged
Okay.
in the company instead of staying 1 year and changing and so on. But you have other challenges, and I'll give you a couple of them. So as we get older, we are now in charge of our parents. And, so you see a lot of people with facing this situation nowadays. So
Mhm.
you're not only in charge of your children, you're in charge of your children and your parents.
Parents.
Exactly. So, and especially for the females, that we know that it's a reality. They do accumulate. So how can we build this empathy when these people need to take care of
Mhm.
them, live in space and be and understand that this is part of the new world that we're living in. So understanding these trends and demographics, but it all ends up about conversations and looking and understanding and realizing so that people can be their best in their company.
Mhm. And it's about creating those spaces and those conversations. And as you were saying, it's all about having these conversations and creating these ideas that only happen when you're really talking to people and expressing thoughts and different perspectives, and that's what creates the magic, really. We're talking about mentoring, reverse mentoring. uh, and I saw that post that you did. I think it was someone from Mexico that you were kind of doing a mentorship program. Don't remember his name, but that was very interesting. And what's personally, what's your approach to mentoring? And let's say I was going to be mentored by Eduardo, right? And I have this conversation, and what would Eduardo ask me, and what is he going to help me with, and how is he going to help me look at things different? I mean, what's the approach?
Well, let's say that it depends a little bit, and I can give you a
Yeah.
couple of examples later on. But pretty much there are, let's say, four steps here that I think
Uh-huh.
are very helpful. So the first one, what motivates you? Because when you're mentoring a person, right? So you can have the best process and so on, but if I really don't know, Damian, what motivates
What motivates you?
you, then what are your goals? So we are both investing our time here.
Hmm.
Also, a couple of, as you said, that program is a Marsh McLennan program for young talents.
Uh-huh.
And so the idea here is to prepare the young talents for new to grow in their career. And so does this colleague really want? It seems that they want
Right.
to grow, but are they? What are they looking for specifically? So that's the second point. The third one is establish a routine and commit. Because I learned also that if you don't have the discipline, life, starts playing the game and the work, and you don't go one session, then you don't go the second one. So I have had cases that I never delay, I'm never late. If I commit to do this mentoring, I'll be there, unless there's something that's really unmanageable, and then I write and
Yeah.
reschedule. But I have had some cases that the mentee missed one, and I said, okay, that's the last time. So here's the agenda that I can offer you. If you don't attend, it's gone. This
Yeah.
never happened in the company I work for, but I was in the past. I was mentor for things outside my work. I was mentor of a person in Manaus that was a young female. That was Manaus is, as you know, is in the
I
middle
know.
of the
Yeah.
jungle, the Amazon, and trying to look. So I was a volunteer, and was great. I mean, after the 10th session, but in the second one, she said probably she realized, well, he's serious about it, and I better commit here,
Yeah.
otherwise. And the fourth one is trust. So it's I think these people are opening their lives in this conversation, you
Right.
know, and
And
you
so
have to.
it gets a bit personal as well in talking about
It's not the
motivations.
goal, right? So
Yeah.
the goal
Yeah.
of mentoring, it's not about so tell me about your personal problem, but
No. Right.
I'm having this conflict here with my boss, and I'm having this, and this is going on, and you need to earn the trust of the mentee, so that you keep it on a safe zone. Okay, everything you tell me here, it's gonna stay here, and it needs to
Right.
stay. Otherwise, it becomes very superficial conversation, and it
Yeah.
doesn't change. It's not transformation.
Right. So what's the because I this can be a long kind of long pro and I'm not sure how many sessions there are, but yeah, in the end, what's the goal of the program? I mean, you finish in what?
Yeah. So it varies, right? So I'll give you a couple of things that happened in my career
Yeah.
as a mentor. There was one case fully unplanned that back 2019. An executive director of a multinational just called me and said, would you mind to be my mentor? One day I want to be a president. And I said, listen, uh, we can have lunch, but I see you as my peer. And he was really, really talented. And then
Uh-huh.
it became a session, and we engaged,
Uh-huh.
and we are still engaging. And eventually he became a CEO.
It
But
worked.
I don't think it worked because of the session. But
Yeah.
he says that helped him a lot, and so on. And it's always easier to speak about a situation that someone is facing when you're looking from outside, right?
Mm.
It's a privilege. So I think he trusted, and we had a strong bond, and I could give him a fair opinion. But
Mhm.
generally speaking, the programs, let's say, except this case or others that were more occasionally, they have a time a period of time. So this young talent program, it's a 1 year,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So it takes 1 year, and our monthly sessions. It doesn't, let's say, it never ends, but it becomes an open channel.
Okay.
So
It's
that's
not
the idea.
formal
Yeah, it's
after
not
1 year.
formal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not formal. In parallel to this program, we had this was I had a chance to practice my Spanish. This was a colleague from Mexico,
Yeah.
but we had here in Brazil, let's say a female top talent program,
Okay.
and it was the same. It was a full year, and that served a purpose to accelerate the growth of those talents, and that's the goal that we want to achieve as an organization. We're very diverse, but we want to keep pushing to more female leaders, and it's a great progress that we're having. So it was also 1 year. But what happens is that sometimes it rings my phone.
Yeah,
Can you talk? And yes, of
it
course.
becomes an open channel, right?
It becomes an open channel. So I think that's the beauty. And I still have an open channel with those two guys that I mentioned to you in my career.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
One of them very close. The other, I don't speak that oftenly, but I know I can pick the phone and give him a call.
Right, but that's, it created that, you mentioned four elements, and one of those, the last one was the trust. If trust's not there, I mean, it's very difficult to guide and to mentor someone. Something that, and I get, most of the mentoring programs is really to develop your skills and to develop leaders, to develop leaders. And something I think that it's tied to the fact of this generational difference. And what kind of seeing in some spaces, uh, my view might be limited, but I see that the motivations of younger generations are not necessarily, I want to be the top leader, and I want to be the boss, and I want to be probably that. I'm not sure if it's there as it was before, previous generations, right? But that's a challenge that I can imagine companies face. If we don't have a lot of people that really want to be the leaders, what do we do? So, and what's interesting here, Eduardo, is you're the president of the probably the largest consulting company in human capital in Brazil, and you have visibility on what's going on, especially in the country. But uh, what are you seeing are some of the ways that companies are developing their future leaders,
Well, I think there are, let's say, probably there's some formulas here that work.
Yeah.
It starts with the individualized mentoring and coaching feedback. So, but very well structured. So, with timely feedback and modeling of skills and behaviors. I think this is something that does help a lot, and those programs focusing on, as we were discussing, in the interpersonal skills,
Hmm.
especially, so empathy, conflict resolution, relationship building, connection, trust. I mean, all the things that sometimes we give for granted because, as you were saying, we came from a different perspective that work was sometimes more important than your own life.
Right.
And I think this generation is really more balanced in a positive way. That doesn't mean that all those factors are there. So if you have those programs, they can help to settle. And on top of those, there is the practical learning
Hmm.
that is pivotal and makes a big difference. So how can we give opportunities for people enrolled here to make decisions, to do the team management, learning in real situations? I think those are, let's say, three components that may help a lot.
All right. So there's the mentoring, there's the coaching, and then the practical aspect of that. So mentoring and coaching, and excuse my ignorance here, but what would be the difference between mentoring and coaching? Or you're kind of talking about the same thing?
Well, no, it's different, and
Yeah.
let's say the mentor is about I'm a mentor, but I'm not a professional coach.
Okay. Got it.
So
Okay.
I share my experience. Intend to have had those experiences and so on. The coach is a professional, external, hired, and certain point of time it helps as well. If you're facing a situation or if you look at let's say a talent that is facing a barrier,
Yeah.
and you probably need someone to have him thinking
Uh-huh.
more in a different way with some coaching and those are Those are great programs as well. They do work.
And these programs, they are, let's say, mandatory. What you're saying, right, are mandatory for the company. So let's say, because there's CEO of Mercer Brazil, there's kind of one, and you're mentoring, I'm not sure how many people, but there's a limited amount of mentors inside each company, you can imagine, and there's a lot of talent that might be interested in those programs. So how do companies typically go about it? It's a kind of application process, or you need to raise your hand, and if you want to be mentored, how
Yeah. So that's when it comes, you try to connect everything, right? So your
uh-huh.
HR strategy, for instance, I'll give an example, was to develop top females. So we
Right.
establish a program for that. The other one, you figure out that your young talents can, be accelerated as well, put into context and explain a little bit more possibilities and give these people a broader a view of to solve some of the problems they are facing nowadays, and so establish this program. So I think it
Yeah.
depends on your HR strategy, and it does vary a lot because the problems, they can be the same in some
Mhm.
cases, but they are sometimes no. So being a mentor, you face completely uh, different situations. So some of the people, they are super self-aware. They do understand
Mhm.
what's going on, but they're having a specific problem. And the other cases, you see people, let's say more young, they want to be rewarded really, really fast. As you said, I don't want to be the president. I want to double my salary this year.
Yeah, right.
And next year again. So, well, I mean, we all want.
Right.
What are you gonna do so that you create value? Okay. So I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it does really depend on the audience you're speaking and
Right.
and the individual you're speaking.
Right. So it really comes first from the top, the leadership team and the CHRO, and evaluating, okay, who do we need to develop for,
Exactly.
the next 3 to 5 years is really strategic. And you go, okay, we want to develop more female leaders, or we want to develop technical talent that do not have, programmers that probably don't have experience leading teams, and it's kind of, you identify who's the group, and then you create according to that, and then you move to the next one, and then you move to the
Exactly.
and kind of like that, right?
Exactly. And then in parallel, you can have, let's say, those programs that we were discussing of building up artificial intelligence knowledge and so on. So it's a puzzle. You
It's
do
a
your
puzzle. It's
puzzle, and with that puzzle in mind, you execute, and it tends to produce very, very good results. And some of the results, Damian, that we didn't expect.
mm,
And I'll give you a couple of examples here. Uh, these people connect among themselves. If you have a top female leadership, the top female leaders are getting connected.
yeah.
And they start to learn things from others. So they know, oh, I was not aware that this area was doing this. And, by the way, I have here in my area this need, and so on. And then you connect it. So those things happen. I was speaking to the Mexican talent, as I was telling, and he was
Yeah.
teaching me about the cyber marketing in Mexico. I mean, it's not my area, but that's very interesting. Is this happening,
Interesting.
and so on? Okay, so we all learn, and you learn, and you know people, and you connect, and suddenly here, why not? He could ask me about, I wanna one day move to Brazil, and I'm not in charge of the company in our holding that is Marsh. It's a peer company
Right.
it's a peer operation of Mercer. But Marsh has a cyber division, and who knows if this guy in the future, in 5 years, and he wants to move, and those are the kind of things that
Yeah.
You can't really measure, but they are
Measure.
there.
Right,
But
right.
they are there.
They are there, and you have no idea. But again, it's about creating those connections, and let things happen by putting the right people together. Uh, when it comes to leaders, and leadership and what you're seeing and in these programs, are there any particular gaps that are really noticeable in terms of leadership skills that most companies are struggling with? Uh, do you
Yeah.
identify anything in particular?
Communication. So that's
Communication.
yeah, that's first. And we were here raising some of the possibilities to increase communication. So sometimes, I mean, obviously we have a global CEO, and
Mhm.
part of his role is to be the chief communication. I mean, he has a communication leader, and this person does the communication, but he's a communication global communicator. He'll come to Brazil now in May, and he will say, "Well, we're doing this and that. What's going on is A, B, C, and D." And he's a great communicator by the end, and that helps a lot, you know. So I think part of the things that leadership has to do is communicate, communicate, communicate. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
so common that you think you said A, and then people understood A/B, and then it comes tension, and people don't understand
true.
really why. So communication, I think, is very important. The second one is adapt to change. As we were here discussing, it's a fast changing world, a lot of things happening, ambiguous. And there are early signs, and the more fluid the organizations, the better you can take advantage of let's say, change that are you can be ahead of competition. The third one is to manage this. We spoke about generation, but there's diversity,
Mhm.
right? So understanding that the diversity in the of all, I mean,
All
gender,
kinds, right?
all kinds, it's very important. And the last one is the decision making, the speed in decision making, um, and
Hmm.
that's something also that has some room for, generally speaking, in terms of opportunity.
All right. So you mentioned so four main ones: the communication skills, adaptability to change, diversity of different kinds, and the speed of decision making. By the way, I was talking to your friend Priscilla a few weeks ago, and she was talking about, actually, in the intro of the episode, it shows it says not about the gender diversity. I mean, that's important because there's different skills in that are inherited to male and females, but it's about how you think and your background and where you come from and the different perspectives, and that in the end it's what creates value and what creates different perspectives, right? So that was an interesting one that Priscilla was talking about. And you're talking about communication skills, and this is something I ask a lot of people, and that leaders communicate. I'm not sure if you know him, Rafael Carvalho is his name. Well, I interviewed him many months ago. Great guy. And he was talking and saying, the role of the leader is to communicate, to communicate, to communicate. And when you think that everyone understood, communicate again, right? And I'm seeing you saying this the same thing, and it's true. But then at the same time, communication can mean a lot of things, right? And the thing is, what is communication, if you have to define it, and how can I develop that
Okay, I would
based on your
summarize
perspective?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would say clarity and effectiveness.
Hmm.
So those are, let's say, two of the things that are guides to help communicating. And part of, let's say, a leader role is when you identify change.
Yeah.
You need to change. And
Mm.
and that happens a lot, right? So how you get people to do something that is beyond or differently from what they are doing, it's not easy to change, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do it? And you set a vision, then you inf- communicate, inform, check, communicate. Then there's something that is very important. There are the processes, because
Mm.
processes guarantee that things are happening accordingly to the vision. If you don't have processes, you just communicate.
Mm.
Yeah. So okay, this is my vision, and then so to
But
get
what about
there,
the system to make that happen? Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So if you don't have a systematic way of following up or checking if communication is right, and if you the enablers that you need to achieve with this change are there, probably we're gonna stop on the phase one. So
Right.
that I think it's very helpful, more systematic way of guarantee that your communication is evolving and you're measuring and you know where because you're communicating for a purpose, right? It should be
Right.
something strategic. Let's say
Yeah.
an end goal, but to get there, there are lots of milestones. And we need to
I
identify and guarantee that they are being accomplished.
the and talking about this communication piece, and I was talking to someone, and probably what's difficult when you are, and as you were saying, you're part of the company, you're doing one thing, and you're just doing this one thing, and you're not able to see the entire picture, and you have no idea of how what you're doing it's having an impact on the rest of the company. And this lady was saying, when you tell people what they do, and there was an analogy of this guy that goes into a town, and there's someone that's cutting a rock and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm cutting rocks." And then moves forward a little bit and finds another one. "No, I'm earning a couple dollars an hour." And this guy, last guy, is cutting rocks as well, but I'm cutting rocks for a beautiful building, right? And how you communicate that, hey, what you're doing has this value, and you're doing this, and it's generating this and this, and that probably also fulfills the need of talking about younger generations, in having this purpose and understanding how what I'm doing, it's having an impact, and if I don't do it, who will, right? So how important is communication? It's in everything, Eduardo.
Very important. And I think, as you said very well, Damian, the purpose. So the purpose of what you're doing. So in my role nowadays, we want to make a difference in people's lives. So that's pretty
Mm.
much what Mercer is about. So we help, I mean, millions of people in their health insurance plan decisions to get a healthier life, to get access. We help people to save for the future, and we help people to have a better career. And the numbers are superlatives. It's amazing. I was the other day having an offsite and showing them, listen, this is the amount of salaries that obviously I don't know the details, but I know this
No.
is the amount of remuneration that we advise. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's part of the GDP. And then I look down and say, this is the percentage of population that we are helping them to have access to health. So it's way different than saying, okay, obviously we have our numbers, our figures, but as long as you say this is why we're here, and it's good for people, and it's much easier than to say, okay, you know what, we should collaborate more. Because if I'm only supporting this company on their health side, I should support them on the saving side. You know why? Because people don't save, they're gonna have mental problems. They'll be
And it,
trigger of
it
financial. It's so obvious,
it's crazy.
but
And
it's yeah. Go ahead.
It and no, and it's crazy in particular, given that it's Mercer and the amount of impact that you guys have. And I'm thinking about this, probably one of the most important aspects of people lives, like it or not, it's your work, and it's your financial stability and everything that comes with that. But uh, it's crazy that the way that companies, attract talent and develop their people and create opportunities and create value by growing people, that generates value for the companies and eventually for the economy as a whole, right? So how a very little thing, creating mentorship programs, it's gonna in the end have an impact on your country. It's crazy because you're generating, growing talent. This talent generates value. The value generates revenue. The revenue it expands. But it's very hard to see it when you're down there doing the calculations of whatever.
You're absolutely right. It's unbelievable the impact that every single thing that we do in people's lives. So, and the impact that we have in the end, we say a client is a person. It's not a company. This person has its own goals. Our colleagues here, each one of them, let's say they have their own values, but when you're connecting good people with good people, and the formula, it's great. It's very powerful. But I see this pride and the eyes of
Yeah.
let's say my team here. They get very bright when they come here and say, you know what, we just delivered an awesome program. People are very happy. We reshaped the future of that organization and so on. So there is this beauty in professional service that is it's amazing.
It's great. And Eduardo, I think we're running out of time now, but I want to really appreciate the time, all the perspectives you share, being so generous with your knowledge, with your experience, and I'm pretty sure this is going to help a lot of people as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. A great pleasure. Appreciate.